The Zarblaxian retreat was anything but dignified. As their sleek ships ascended into the evening sky, Comic-Con attendees recorded the spectacle on their phones, assuming it was an elaborate marketing stunt for an upcoming sci-fi blockbuster. Social media exploded with speculation about which studio had orchestrated such an impressive display. Inside the command vessel, Trilvax paced the polished deck, his forearms gesticulating wildly as subordinates cowered. The ship's curved walls pulsed with soft blue light that intensified with his mounting frustration. "Explain this immediately," he demanded, his translator device struggling to modulate his high-pitched clicks into comprehensible speech. "Why did the humans not tremble before our might? Why did they point small devices at me instead of fleeing in terror?" Science Officer Zix, the youngest member of the Invasion Council, nervously approached the display terminal. Three-fingered hands danced across holographic controls as images of humans taking selfies with confused Zarblaxian soldiers filled the screen. "Supreme Conqueror, preliminary analysis suggests we may have miscalculated," Zix offered tentatively. "The humans appear to have integrated fictional alien encounters into their entertainment culture so thoroughly that our actual presence registered as amusement." Impossible. Trilvax's skin shifted from its natural purple hue to an alarming orange. "Our intelligence division assured me that humans would be primitive and easily subjugated. Their technology is centuries behind ours." Strategic Commander Krell, a battle-scared veteran of 3 successful planetary conquests, stepped forward. "We intercepted their transmissions for decades. Their species constantly depicts themselves being easily overwhelmed by superior forces. Their movies showed them as defenseless against even the simplest invasion tactics." On screen, footage from the landing showed a young human in an elaborate costume with tentacles and green body paint, enthusiastically explaining to a Zarblaxian scout how she made her alien costume using just household items and YouTube tutorials. "They thought we were them pretending to be us," Zix realized aloud, earning a withering glare from Trilvax. "We cannot return to the consortium with news of this embarrassment," Trilvax declared, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "The conquest of Earth was supposed to secure my promotion to Grand Overlord." The ship shuddered slightly as it entered Earth's stratosphere, establishing geosynchronous orbit over North America. Below, news channels were already running stories about the incredible special effects display at Comic-Con, with expert commentators debating which franchise the aliens had been promoting. "Supreme Conqueror, I recommend we temporarily postpone direct confrontation," Zix suggested, displaying a complex planetary scan on the main view screen. "Our biodata indicates humans are surprisingly resilient and adaptable. Their psychological profiles are unusual. They appear to process fear differently than other conquered species." Trilvax stared at the blue-green planet below, his compound eyes narrowing. "Very well. We will study them more thoroughly before the next phase. Deploy reconnaissance drones to major population centers. I want to understand their weaknesses, their power structures, their communications. Find me something we can exploit." As the invasion fleet dispersed into stealth formation around Earth, a single notification appeared on Dr. Ellie Chen's phone in her San Diego hotel room. "Unusual electromagnetic anomalies detected in upper atmosphere following Comic-Con incident. Pattern matches theoretical extraterrestrial technology signatures. Analysis recommended." She smiled, pulling up the footage she secretly recorded of the cosplayer whose skin had shifted colors when startled, something no makeup or costume could achieve. "I knew it," she whispered, already planning her next move as humanity's unwitting first contact specialist. The Zarblaxian cultural research team huddled around the glowing monitor sphere in their cloaked observation pod hovering above New York City. The cramped space was filled with data tablets, snack containers, and what appeared to be human merchandise, including several stuffed cats and a collection of smartphone accessories. "Remarkable findings, team," announced Research Director Mix, her eye stalks swiveling excitedly as she reviewed their compiled data. "After 3 Earth weeks of intense observation, we've identified the true power structures of human society." The research pod's walls displayed hundreds of video clips running simultaneously. TikTok dances, Instagram influencers unboxing products, YouTube cooking shows, reality TV competitions, and endless streams of cat videos. "The evidence is conclusive," Mix continued, bringing up a holographic chart. "These influencers controlled human behavior through mysterious broadcasts. When they display products, humans immediately acquire them. When they perform movement rituals, humans replicate them exactly. Their power appears absolute." Junior analyst Voon raised a tentative appendage. "But what about their formal governance structures? Their presidents and prime ministers?" Mix dismissed the question with a flick of her tendrils. "Merely ceremonial figureheads. We've calculated that these cat creatures are the true rulers. Observe how humans serve them, provide them with shelter and sustenance, and obsessively document their activities. Humans have built an entire information network dedicated to sharing cat imagery. The evidence is undeniable." Back at the mothership, Trilvax reviewed the latest reconnaissance reports with growing frustration. "These findings are absurd," he hissed, flinging a data tablet across the command bridge. "You expect me to believe humans worship miniature furry predators and take behavioral orders from young humans who dance on illuminated surfaces?" Science Officer Zix cleared his throat nervously. "The cultural research team has been very thorough, Supreme Conqueror. They've analysed over 5 million individual media items. But they're not analysing the right things," Trilvax bellowed. "Where are the military assessments? The weapons capabilities? The defense systems?" "Our team found very little military content trending on their networks," Zix explained. "The algorithm-driven content selection systems of Earth prioritize entertainment, controversy, and small animals doing amusing things." Meanwhile, Dr. Ellie Chen sat in her university office, surrounded by printouts of electromagnetic readings, satellite imagery, and social media posts about strange sightings. A map on her wall was dotted with coloured pins marking unusual incidents: electronic interference in Tokyo, metallic objects moving against the wind in Rio de Janeiro, and inexplicable weather pattern disruptions over major cities. Her department chair, Professor Markson, leaned against the doorframe. "Still chasing aliens, Ellie. The Dean is concerned about your recent research focus." "Something happened at Comic-Con," she insisted, pointing to her evidence board. "These patterns aren't natural phenomena. The electromagnetic signatures match nothing in our scientific literature. What they match," Markson sighed, "is career suicide. Extraterrestrial research isn't exactly what the tenure committee looks for." As he left, Eli's phone pinged with an alert. An unusual cluster of social media posts reporting weird hovering shadows near Central Park. Simultaneously, her specialized detection app registered an energy spike consistent with advanced propulsion technology. She smiled, grabbing her jacket and equipment bag. While the aliens were busy studying cat videos and dance trends, she was studying them. The irony wasn't lost on her as she headed for the door, ready to catch the next flight to New York. The hunt was on, with clueless aliens and a determined anthropologist on a collision course that neither fully understood. The Zarblaxian bioweapon deployment had gone spectacularly wrong. From their monitoring station, high above Nebraska, Science Officer Zix watched the unfolding chaos with a mixture of horror and fascination. The holographic displays showed real-time footage from major cities worldwide. Humans doubled over, not in pain as planned, but in uncontrollable laughter. Supreme Conqueror, Zix reported, his voice uncharacteristically tight. The paralysis compound appears to have undergone a chemical transformation in Earth's atmosphere. Instead of immobilizing the humans, it's triggered some sort of neurological pleasure response. Trilvax stared at the monitors in disbelief. In Times Square, business executives in crisp suits had abandoned all decorum, leaning against buildings as they howled with laughter. In Tokyo, an entire train station of commuters simultaneously erupted into giggles, their typically reserved demeanor completely dissolved. "How is this possible?" Trilvax demanded. "Our biological weapons division tested this compound on 17 different species." Chief Biologist Neve approached nervously, skin fluctuating between anxious green and embarrassed purple. "We may have made a critical error in our analysis of human brain chemistry. It appears their neurotransmitters respond differently than predicted. The compound is bound to there. I believe they call them endorphin receptors." "Fix this immediately," Trilvax ordered, but his command was interrupted by a strange sensation bubbling up from his thoracic cavity. A peculiar spasm rippled through his speech membranes, and to his horror, a sound resembling human laughter escaped. "Sir," Zix looked alarmed. "Are you experiencing—" "I'm fine," Trilvax insisted, even as another involuntary sound emerged. Around the command bridge, other officers were experiencing similar symptoms, their bodies betraying them with alien approximations of chuckles and giggles. The compound, Nev realized, eyes widening. It must have contaminated our environmental systems. We're being affected through our filtration membranes. In Nebraska, Dr. Ellie Chen drove her rental car down a dusty county road, following the pattern of atmospheric anomalies she'd mapped over the past week. The laughter outbreak had provided the final piece of evidence she needed. Whatever these visitors were, they were experimenting on humanity, though rather unsuccessfully. Her equipment picked up increasingly strong readings as she approached an unremarkable cornfield. The car radio cycled through stations, all broadcasting news about the global laughter pandemic that experts were attributing to everything from cosmic radiation to mass hysteria. Ellie pulled over when her instruments peaked, grabbing her specialized camera and detection equipment. The cornfield looked ordinary enough, but the readings suggested otherwise. As she approached, a shimmering distortion in the air caught her attention. Something large and invisible was displacing the cornstalks. Suddenly, her body was overcome with another wave of the giggles, stronger here, at what must be ground zero for whatever had been released. Through tear-blurred eyes, she aimed her special camera at the distortion and snapped several photos. Later, in her motel room, Ellie reviewed the images on her laptop. When processed through her specialized filters, they revealed the unmistakable outline of an enormous structure, like nothing human engineering could produce. The cloaking technology couldn't hide from her enhanced spectrum photography. "Gotcha," she whispered, even as another fit of laughter bubbled up. Inside the mothership, Trilvax ordered an emergency containment protocol, but it was too late. The emotional contagion was spreading through the fleet. For the first time in Zarblaxian history, Warriors were experiencing empathy, curiosity, and worst of all, humor. The invasion force that had arrived to conquer Earth was being conquered instead, by feelings they had no evolutionary framework to understand. And somewhere in the Nebraska twilight, a human scientist was closer to finding them than they could possibly imagine. The small-town diner in Millbrook, Nebraska buzzed with unusual excitement as the 4 strangest customers anyone had ever seen occupied the corner booth. The Zarblaxian infiltration unit, led by Commander Krex, had spent 3 Earth days preparing their disguises based on extensive study of human social media influencers and celebrities. Would you humans care to engage in the consumption of additional liquid refreshment? Krex asked the waitress, his voice unnaturally deep, as he attempted to sound like the action movie stars they'd studied. His human disguise featured impossibly white teeth, hair styled with excessive product, and sunglasses worn indoors. His 3 team members sported equally bizarre appearances, one with eyebrows drawn too high, another with lips overlined to cartoonish proportions, and the third wearing what appeared to be a formal tuxedo to breakfast. "Ah, you mean more coffee?" the waitress asked, barely concealing her amusement. "Affirmative. We are experiencing great enjoyment of this bitter stimulant beverage." Krex replied, giving an exaggerated thumbs-up gesture that he held for an uncomfortable length of time. At the counter, Dr. Ellie Chen sipped her own coffee, covertly recording the interaction on her phone. 3 days of surveillance had convinced her these were the aliens she'd been tracking, though their disguises were so absurd she almost doubted herself. Their strange behavior had the locals convinced they were filming some sort of reality show or social experiment. "They with you?" the waitress asked Ellie as she refilled her cup. "No, but I'm curious about them," Ellie admitted. "Any idea where they're staying?" "Old Wilkins Farm down Route 16. Paid cash up front for a month," the waitress whispered. "Between you and me, I think they're those YouTube pranksters my kids watch. They asked me yesterday if humans required regular mineral dust baths or if that was only on special celebration days." Ellie struggled to keep a straight face. Interesting research method. Across the diner, Krex's communicator vibrated. Moving with robotic precision, he excused himself to the restroom, where he activated his secure channel to the mothership. "Infiltration progressing satisfactorily. Supreme Conqueror," he reported. "The humans suspect nothing. We have successfully integrated into their social ecosystem." Through the crackling transmission, Krillvax sounded unusually stressed. "Have you located the human scientist tracking our operations?" "Negative. We continue to search." "Accelerate your efforts. Our emotional contamination situation is worsening. Several crew members have started decorating their quarters with Earth imagery and requesting time off to explore their feelings. Find this Dr. Chen before our entire operation disintegrates into chaos." When Krex returned to the table, he found his team had ordered something called breakfast dessert. Enormous ice cream sundaes topped with brownies, whipped cream, and sparklers. "The humans are celebrating our presence," explained Lieutenant Zor, already several spoonfuls into his sundae. "This is a traditional welcome feast." "This mission is becoming compromised," Krex hissed under his breath. "Focus on finding the scientist." At that moment, Ellie deliberately walked past their table, dropping her napkin. As she bent to retrieve it, she locked eyes with Krex. Something in his gaze, a recognition, a flicker of inhuman awareness behind the coloured contact lenses, confirmed her suspicions. "Excuse me," she said with calculated casualness, "but I couldn't help noticing your interesting accents. I'm a linguistic anthropologist studying regional dialects." I'd love to interview you for my research. Krex's face froze in what was supposed to be a pleasant smile, but looked more like a grimace. We would be honored to participate in your scientific documentation, fellow human. Knowledge sharing is a most excellent pursuit. Perfect, Ellie replied, sliding her card across the table. Dr. Ellie Chen. Call me any time. As she walked away, she could feel a tension radiating from their booth. The hunter had just introduced herself to the hunted, and neither side was sure what would happen next. Inside the Zarblaxian command ship, Communications Officer Trix had finalized what she believed was the perfect takeover message. After weeks of studying human broadcast patterns, she was confident her work would finally redeem the mission's numerous embarrassments. The planetary override is ready, Supreme Conqueror, she announced, mandibles kicking with nervous pride. We can broadcast simultaneously on all Earth frequencies, bypassing their encryption and security protocols. Trilvax nodded approval, though his usual commanding presence seemed diminished. Like many crew members, he'd been experiencing troubling emotional fluctuations, moments of inexplicable fascination with human culture, random urges to try their cuisines, even occasional appreciation for their music. Begin the transmission, he ordered, straightening his ceremonial armor. Let today be remembered as the moment Earth acknowledged its new rulers. At precisely 3:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every television, radio, computer, and smartphone across Earth interrupted regular programming. Screens flickered, displaying Trilvax in full Conqueror regalia, his multiple arms extended in what he believed was an intimidating pose. Attention, citizens of Earth, he began, the translation algorithm converting his clicks and whistles into what the Zarblaxian linguistics team had assured him was perfect human speech. Your planet is now under the benevolent control of the Zarblaxian Consortium. Resistance is. But something was terribly wrong. In living rooms worldwide, Trilvax's message was arriving with unexpected alterations. The translation algorithm, after weeks of processing primarily entertainment content, had recategorized the invasion announcement as promotional material. It rendered his stern ultimatum in the enthusiastic cadence of a streaming service advertisement. Attention, binge watchers of Earth, get ready for the most epic takeover event of the season. Introducing Planet Zarblax, the hottest new reality show where your world becomes our world. Resistance is. So last season. Subscribe now for exclusive alien content. First month free with code. Invasion 2025. As his speech continued, Earth's weather satellites, which the Zarblaxians had intended to weaponize, instead created a spectacular light show resembling Aurora Borealis visible even in daylight across the northern hemisphere. The display synchronized perfectly with Trilvax's speech, making the whole event appear to be an elaborate multimedia marketing campaign. On the command bridge, blissfully unaware of how their message was being received, Trix monitored Earth communications with growing confusion. Supreme Conqueror, they're responding, but not with surrender declarations. They're creating short visual responses called memes featuring your image with humorous captions. Subscription requests are flooding our communication channels. Several human entertainment companies are sending collaboration proposals. Trilvax stared at the screens in disbelief as his carefully crafted threat was met with hashtags like hashtag Zarblaxian Takeover and hashtag Alliance or Marketing trending worldwide. One particularly popular video remix set his speech to dance music, already accumulating millions of views. This is unacceptable, he roared, pounding control panels with multiple fists. We are conquerors, not entertainers. Unknown to him, his outburst was still being broadcast live. His tantrum, complete with foot stomping and what humans would recognize as a spectacular temper tantrum, became an instant viral sensation. In her Nebraska motel room, Dr. Ellie Chen watched the bizarre broadcast with scientific fascination and barely suppressed laughter. Unlike the rest of humanity who believed this was elaborate marketing, she recognized the truth. These were her aliens, and they were spectacularly failing at intimidation. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We acknowledge you have identified us, Dr. Chen. The infiltration team requests a meeting. Your scientific insights may prove necessary." The invitation from Commander Krex confirmed what she already suspected. The aliens were losing control of their own invasion. And somehow, she'd become their best hope for understanding the planet they couldn't seem to conquer. Dr. Ellie Chen sat across from Commander Krex in an abandoned barn outside Millbrook. Despite the dramatic setting, complete with dust motes dancing in shafts of sunlight through weathered boards, the meeting felt bizarrely like an awkward first date. Krex had abandoned his ridiculous human disguise, revealing his true Zarblaxian form: iridescent purple skin, 4 arms, and compound eyes that shifted color with his emotions. "I appreciate you agreeing to meet," Krex said, his translator device now properly calibrated to sound less like a movie trailer announcer. "Our mission has encountered unexpected complications." "You mean you've completely failed to invade Earth?" Ellie replied with a raised eyebrow. "Your bioweapon backfired, your disguises are laughable, and your ultimatum went viral as an entertainment promo. Did I miss anything?" From the shadows at the back of the barn, a younger Zarblaxian emerged. Unlike Krex's military bearing, this alien moved with a researcher's curiosity, examining everything with obvious fascination. "This is Science Officer Zix," Krex introduced reluctantly. "He has defected from the main mission. Against direct orders, he's been conducting independent research on human culture." Zix approached eagerly, his skin rippling with excited blue patterns. "Dr. Chen, your research on cross-cultural communication among isolated human populations is brilliant. I've read all your published papers." Ellie blinked in surprise. "You've been reading academic journals. Your species publishes everything online," Zix enthused. "While the command team was studying your entertainment, I accessed your scientific databases. Humans are remarkable. You lack our technological capabilities, yet your cultural and emotional intelligence is extraordinarily developed." Krex made a sound resembling an exasperated sigh. "Zix believes our invasion strategy is fundamentally flawed. He claims we should be learning from humans, not conquering them." "Our homeworld is dying," Zix explained, his colors shifting to a somber blue-gray. "Our atmosphere is degrading from centuries of resource extraction. The consortium's solution is always the same: find a suitable planet, conquer its inhabitants, claim their resources." "But you disagree?" Ellie asked. "The emotional contamination from our backfired bioweapon has affected most of our crew," Zix admitted. "For the first time, we're experiencing empathy, curiosity, even humor. Many of us now question whether conquest is the only path forward." Krex reluctantly nodded. Supreme Conqueror Trilvax refuses to acknowledge these changes. He's becoming increasingly erratic, insisting we proceed with conventional invasion protocols despite repeated failures. "So why come to me?" Ellie asked, though she was beginning to understand. "Humans navigate emotional landscapes naturally," Zix explained. "You understand concepts that are new and destabilizing to us. We need a cultural interpreter, someone who can help us process these new experiences and possibly find a different approach to our species' survival. Ellie considered their request. Let me get this straight. You want me to help an alien invasion force understand human emotions so they might decide not to invade after all? Precisely. Zix's skin brightened hopefully. Meanwhile, at United Nations headquarters, an emergency session had convened to address the global broadcast phenomenon. Intelligence agencies worldwide were divided. Some insisted it was an elaborate marketing stunt gone wrong, while others argued for treating it as a genuine security threat. The broadcast originated from no known terrestrial source, a technology expert explained to the assembled delegates, and the electromagnetic disturbances that accompanied it defy conventional explanation. As diplomats argued protocols and jurisdictions, no one noticed the young aide who slipped out of the chamber, phone in hand. Dr. Chen, this is Marcus Wong from the UN Secretary-General's office. I saw your research on the Nebraska anomalies. We need to talk immediately. The clock was ticking. As Earth's governments slowly awakened to the possibility of actual alien presence, Ellie found herself in an impossible position, caught between extraterrestrial defectors seeking peaceful solutions and a frustrated invasion commander still determined to complete his mission, no matter how embarrassingly it had begun. The interior of the Zarblaxian mothership was nothing like the sterile, minimalist designs of science fiction films. Instead, Dr. Ellie Chen found herself navigating corridors that increasingly resembled a college dormitory during finals week. Alien crew members had decorated their quarters with Earth posters, strings of holiday lights, and what appeared to be homemade attempts at human furniture. The contamination has progressed further than I realized, Zix whispered as they passed a recreation area where off-duty aliens were enthusiastically attempting to play charades. Their infiltration plan had been surprisingly simple. Commander Krex used his security clearance to bring Ellie aboard as a research specimen, though the guards barely glanced at their credentials, too engrossed in a basketball game streaming on a smuggled-in tablet. We need to reach the Neural Broadcasting Center before the next shift change, Krex warned, checking a holographic map projected from his wrist device. If Trillvax discovers you're aboard. He's become increasingly paranoid, Zix added. He blames human cultural influence for undermining crew discipline. Yesterday he banned all Earth music after finding the engineering team performing something called a conga line during maintenance duties. Ellie clutched the specialized data drive containing her carefully curated collection of humanity's most universal moments of joy, humor, and connection. The compilation had taken her 3 sleepless nights. A crash course in emotional anthropology designed to accelerate the emotional awakening already happening among the Zarblaxian crew. Wait, Krex hissed suddenly, pulling them into an alcove as a security patrol approached. The patrol passed by, but something was off about their behavior. Instead of the precise, synchronized movements of military discipline, they walked casually, chatting among themselves. One was even wearing what appeared to be a baseball cap beneath his helmet. The emotional contagion has reached even the security forces, Zix observed with a mixture of concern and fascination. The hierarchical structure is breaking down throughout the ship. They continued their journey through the massive vessel, encountering more signs of cultural transformation at every turn. Junior officers greeted them with friendly waves instead of salutes. In the hydroponics bay, someone had attempted to create a garden of Earth flowers. A maintenance technician was teaching a group of colleagues how to perform the choreography to Thriller. I had no idea it had gone this far, Krex admitted, looking both disturbed and intrigued. No wonder Trillvax has barricaded himself in the command center. Finally, it reached the neural broadcasting hub, the ship's central communication system that connected directly to every crew member's personal devices and internal ship announcements. If they could upload Eli's compilation here, it would reach the entire fleet simultaneously. Just as Zix began the upload process, alarms blared throughout the corridor. Security barriers slammed down around them, and Trilvax's voice boomed over the communications system. "Attention all personnel. We have an intruder aboard, a human infiltrator accompanied by traitors to our mission. Security teams to level 4 immediately." Through a viewport, Ellie could see Earth hanging like a blue jewel against the blackness of space. Everything she loved about her world, its beauty, its chaos, its endless capacity for joy even in difficult times, seemed captured in that distant sphere. "We're too late," Krex said grimly as heavy footsteps approached from both directions. The upload bar on Zix's console showed only 67% complete when the door slid open. Supreme Conqueror Trilvax stood before them, flanked by his most loyal guards, his skin pulsing with angry red patterns. "Dr. Ellie Chen," he said, his voice eerily calm. "The human who thinks she can stop an invasion with emotions." He spat the last word as if it tasted foul. "Your species' greatest weakness will not become ours." Behind his back, Ellie noticed Zix frantically working a secondary console. Their original plan might have failed, but the young scientist hadn't given up yet. Whatever happened next would determine the fate of two worlds, one facing invasion, the other facing extinction. Trilvax circled Dr. Chen like a predator, his forearms clasped behind his back in what he believed was an intimidating posture. The Neural Broadcasting Center had become an impromptu tribunal, with the Supreme Conqueror as both judge and potential executioner. "Your attempts to subvert our mission have been noted, human," he said coldly. "Your emotional manipulation may have affected my crew, but I remain committed to the Consortium's directive. Earth will be conquered." Ellie stood her ground, meeting his compound eyes without flinching. "Is conquest really the only solution? Your people are experiencing something new, something that could transform your entire civilization." Weakness. Trilvax spat. "These feelings are disrupting thousands of years of Zarblaxian order. We conquer. We survive. It is our way." Behind him, Zix worked frantically at the secondary console, his movements hidden by the gathered security team. Commander Krex positioned himself strategically, creating a distraction with his formal protest against the treatment of an invaluable scientific specimen. "Your way is failing," Ellie pressed, buying time. "Look around you. Your crew isn't resisting human culture. They are embracing it. They're discovering joy, creativity, connection. When was the last time you saw Zarblaxians so alive?" Something flickered across Trilvax's features. Doubt, perhaps, or the faintest hint of curiosity. Before he could respond, Zix completed his override sequence. Instead of broadcasting to the ship's neural network, he had redirected Eli's compilation to a single recipient, Trilvax himself. The Supreme Conqueror staggered as the neural link in his command armor activated, flooding his consciousness with carefully selected moments of human experience, children laughing in playgrounds, elderly couples holding hands after decades together, astronauts gazing in wonder at Earth from space, musicians creating beauty through collaboration, strangers helping one another during disasters, the simple joy of shared meals, and countless expressions of the complex emotional landscape that made humanity resilient. "What is this?" Trilvax gasped, dropping to his knees as decades of rigid military conditioning battled with this overwhelming sensory input. "It's us," Ellie said simply. "It's who we are." The security team watched in stunned silence as their leader experienced his first genuine emotional awakening. Tears, a biological response Zarblaxians didn't know they possessed, streamed from his compound eyes. When the montage ended, Trilvax remained motionless for long moments. The command center was silent, except for the gentle hum of equipment. Finally, he raised his head, his skin displaying colors no one aboard had ever seen before, patterns suggesting profound transformation. "I understand now," he said quietly. "There is another way." 3 Earth months later, the United Nations General Assembly hosted unprecedented visitors. Under the newly established Interstellar Cooperation Initiative, Zarblaxian representatives, led by Ambassador Trilvax, signed the historical Friendship Treaty with Earth. The former Supreme Conqueror, now dressed in diplomatic robes adorned with symbols of both worlds, addressed the Assembly. "Our species sought a new home through conquest. Instead, we found something far more valuable, a new perspective. The emotional intelligence of humanity has given us tools to heal our own world rather than claim yours." The treaty included provisions for environmental technology exchange, with Zarblaxian engineering expertise helping address Earth's climate challenges, while human cultural and emotional frameworks would assist the aliens in rebuilding their society with greater balance and meaning. Dr. Ellie Chen, appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Zarblaxian homeworld, smiled as she watched Trilvax awkwardly attempt a human handshake with the Secretary-General. His once fearsome appearance now seemed almost endearing as he carefully controlled his strength to avoid crushing the human's fingers. "To friendship between worlds," Trilvax declared, his translator device perfectly calibrated at last, "and to the most beneficial failed invasion in galactic history." The Assembly erupted in laughter, human and alien voices blending in perfect harmony. Somewhere in the back of the hall, Science Officer Zix was already planning the interspecies cultural festival that would commemorate the anniversary of the day Zarblaxians came to Earth, not knowing they would conquer nothing but instead find themselves completely, laughably, and wonderfully conquered by human emotions.